All right, hello and welcome. How's everyone doing? It is Saturday, Sunday, I don't know. It's going to be a little bit different format today. As you can see, I'm going to be reading your chats off my phone, so hopefully there's no issues there. And I'm going to be kind of explaining the parts I got from my new PC build and answering any questions you might have as I go through this process. So I thought this would be a fun thing to do, just that if you are interested in making your own computer, maybe this will be a useful resource. And otherwise, we can all just hang out and have some fun together. Mako says I'm loud. Bit loud, says everyone. Loud, loud, loud. That's interesting, guys. Hold on, let me check, see what's going on there, because I should have... Wow, it is redlining. What is going on there? Did it grab my wrong microphone? Does the microphone just sound loud, or does it sound like really bad also? Because maybe it's grabbing my microphone from the wrong spot. I'm trying to find that out real quick here, since everyone's talking about it. It should just be using my bad also. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'm horribly in the red, and now my microphone just fell off. Lovely. It's gonna be one of those sort of streams, guys. Everyone just be cool about it. Be cool about it. There we go. Hopefully that's the last time that happens. So yeah, I just have my laptop set up in the corner over here, and I've cleared off everything so I can actually have space to build this. Sorry about that now. It sounds better now for some reason, Bradley. That's because I turned down all the audio. I don't know why it was redlining like that, but it doesn't matter too much. Okay, so let me read the chats here real quick as we get going. John DeMarco saying another impeachment article, doing this while Jeff is at work. Jeff, sorry. I thought for sure by doing it today I'd be able to have you around, but apparently I'm 100% wrong. Thomas Potts, how are you doing? Hello, right back at you. Bradley Briggs, how you doing? Bradley wants to know how long will this stream be and how many parts will it be in. So hopefully it's just going to take me a couple hours. I make no promises, Bradley. It needs to be in one part because all I'm going to do today is I'm going to physically put the stuff together. In terms of installing software and stuff, I'm not going to cover that. Once I get everything done, I am going to flash my BIOS just to make sure that it's ready to go. And I'll explain why in a second about why I'm going to do that. But I'm not actually going to show any of that on stream. So hopefully just right here, hopefully just a couple of hours. John's saying, live with Matthew, virtual flow. I'm late with Matthew. Yeah, so I realized right as I was about to go live that I forgot to grab my handy dandy bag of screwdrivers. And that's going to be important as you build a PC to actually have some screwdrivers to do things with. And yes, I'm in the red. Sounds better now. Careful. Love these kind of streams, be-seeming ones. Thank you, Mako. Hopefully this is good. Tim, so we get to watch you make a PC go boom. Yes, Tim, that is exactly what we're doing. And Yitza, how you doing today? Okay, so I will do my best to keep an eye on the chat. I can't actually see it today. Like I said, I got my laptop about 6 or so feet that way, and I got my phone here that will be serving as the chat. And hopefully Restream set up right so that anyone talking over on Twitch, I can see you over here on YouTube. If I'm not seeing your comments, someone try and ping me if I'm not seeing Twitch comments, but hopefully if anyone's over on Twitch, I'll be able to see it just fine. And why do I need screwdrivers for PC building? So whenever we start putting this together, things like hard drives and stuff like that, I am going to need to screw that in. Not everything has thumb screws. A lot of things still use like a 3mm screw or something. So I will have to use that in order to put together. In other words, I'll be completely ignoring the chat. No. I'm going to be doing my best to not be ignoring the chat. And buy one of those magnifying glasses for the PC like they had for the Game Boy. Interesting. A little late for this one, Yitza, but I'll try and keep that in mind. So let me kind of explain to you my thought process as I was going through it. And you can see I do try and have this little camera here that's going to be giving you some good, hopefully good angles of me actually putting things together, but we'll see. So for me, whenever I start making a PC, the first thing I'm going to start with is the CPU. And the reason for that, and I went for the Ryzen 9 for this one. This is the 5950X Ryzen 9. And the reason I start with the CPU is because once I figure out what my application is going to be, am I doing desktop gaming? Am I doing streaming like this? Am I doing virtualization stuff? Or am I just doing a mom and pop sitting down, trying to browse the internet, maybe watch some Netflix, maybe do some Word document stuff. Once I know what my application is going to be, that's going to dictate the sort of CPU I get. Now, in terms of AMD, which is who's doing Ryzen these days, versus Intel, it doesn't matter too much. All things considered, they are pretty neck and neck with their capabilities. If you go with the Intel, you're going to get some additional features like having a built-on video card. But if you want to do anything that's, any video game of moderate difficulty, the built-in video card on an Intel chipset is not going to cut the snuff. So you are going to want an external video card at that point. But if all you want to do is watch Netflix, all you want to do is browse the internet a little bit, all you want to do is Word document stuff, you might want to look at Intel, because then you have a built-in video chip on the CPU and you don't have to worry about trying to get a video card, which is impossible right now. There is an extreme video card shortage. I'll talk to you more when I get over to the video card. But it's really hard to get a video card right now. So getting an Intel chip may alleviate that problem. Now, in terms of how powerful a chip you need, both Intel and Ryzen kind of follow this ridiculous naming standard where they have their i3 or Ryzen 3, i5 or Ryzen 5, i7 or Ryzen 7, or the i9 and Ryzen 9 for their kind of desktop-oriented CPUs. So the higher number you get, the more powerful it is. If all you're looking to do is basic stuff, you can get an i3 or a Ryzen 3 and you'll be fine. If you're looking to do something of moderate difficulty, you may want to look at an i5 or Ryzen 5, maybe an i7 Ryzen 7. Very few people are going to need the Ryzen 9. So I did go with basically the top-end desktop CPU you can get, which is the Ryzen 9 5950X. And the reason I did that is because it is 16 cores with 32 dedicated threads. And what that means is for someone like me, who I'm going to have a lot of different things going on at once. I'm going to have 3 or 4 virtual machines going on at a time as I do my programming work. And as I test it and I have my top end and I have a client kind of connected, trying to make sure everything's working there. Or if I'm doing gaming, I'm going to have my gaming going. I'm going to have a stream going. I'm going to be doing a lot of different stuff with a lot of different threads and a lot of different cores being used. So that's why I went for this particular setup. For 99% of the people in the world, you're not going to need this. This is overkill for almost everybody else. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, most people don't need 100 cores or 16 cores, 32 threads. But I'm saying most people don't even need that because most people, the applications you're doing don't really take advantage of multi-core technology. Most things just use the single core, maybe a couple of cores if it's optimized for that. So you really don't see those benefits unless you're doing, video processing or you're doing virtualization like I do. So that's why I went with this specific one. And once you move on from this, and thank you also, by the way, Rock Solid Productions. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Rock Solid, for your $15 tip. That is so generous. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And let me try and read the chats as I transition from the CPU over to the motherboard and why I got this specific motherboard. So Bradley Briggs wants to know, can I give an estimate on how much I spent on this so far? Bradley, that is a great question. Tell you what, let me try and not unhook myself this time. And I'll see if I can't get my spreadsheet in a position where I can actually read it from a distance. Because I did write everything down in a spreadsheet. And I will give you an exact amount of what I spent on all this. Minus this video card, which I haven't put in yet, but I got the receipt right here for that. Which I know this is high quality entertainment right here. I'm going to pull out a receipt, crinkle it by the microphone, and try and figure out what I spent on this stuff. I wonder, I may have thrown that in my car because the video card was just so painful to get, guys. I can't even begin to explain how hard it was to do that video card. But I spent about $847 on the video card, I want to say. So this PC build, it cost me $4,300. And I'm going to explain why exactly that happened, because for most people, this is you shouldn't have to spend this much to build a PC. For the things that I spec'd out, there's no reason why this should have cost this much. So there is a reason. If you say there's no reason except, then congratulations, there's a reason. The reason I had to spend this much is because we are in an extreme silicone shortage right now. It's creating a lot of difficulty in getting video cards, and everything's kind of being priced up just a little bit because of the silicone shortage and because of COVID. People know that you're working from home these days, so they're going to charge you a little bit extra for these parts to build a PC because everyone is doing it right now. So for this, for just the CPU, this was what on earth? My computer went crazy over here. I'm going to reach. There we go. Maybe I'll keep the mouse close to me so I don't have to do that again. The CPU costs $865. So this is the top line Ryzen 9. If I'd done the Ryzen 9 5000, it would have saved $200. So that right there would have saved you money. Most people don't need the Ryzen 9. You could do a Ryzen 7 and still have a very powerful gaming or streaming PC and save you $300-400. So just keep that in mind as you build stuff, because most people definitely don't need this sort of setup. Thomas Potts, the bookshelf is fake. Yes, it's a fake. Tim Chris is saying he's built 4 PCs himself. Okay, yeah, you know I need a screwdriver. You're just messing with me. I don't believe in books in Kuroga. False, John. We do. We encourage book reading. It's a great way to pass the evenings. Thomas Potts, I have a feeling I won't understand anything this stream. I doubt that, Thomas. I bet you don't understand a lot of this. Hey, Professor Brainy Specs, don't break anything. I'm going to try so hard not to break stuff. My son really wanted to help me, and I really wanted to let him. But because of the extreme scarcity of computer parts right now, if something breaks, it needs to be my fault that it breaks. How much would just the HAL 9000 CPU be? So I don't know how much HAL 9000, but the Ryzen 5000 is more in the $700 range right now, is my understanding. Of course, all of these prices I'm dropping are at the time of this video, and if you watch this at some point in the future and all the prices are completely wonky, it's not my fault. So please don't at me. Geeks Enjoy Nerd Erotica, how you doing today, LDG? He says, nice motherboard. Yeah, we're going to talk about why I got this one here next. I always knew I was an overachiever. No. What's the processor? Processor is the Ryzen 9 5950X. I don't know why they put X there. I guess it makes it feel like it's more extreme, but it's not like I've seen the 5950 without the X. I think there's only a 5950X. And then Rock Solid is doing the airplane response, letting Geeks Enjoy Neurotica know exactly what a CPU is. It's the Computer Central Processing Unit, or CPU. It's the portion of the computer that retrieves and executes instruction. The CPU is essentially the brain of a CAD system. Nicely put, Rock Solid. Senate approved of 1,400 stimulus checks. Just need House approval. Very interesting, Professor Brainy Specs. We'll see if that actually comes out. Let's see. Yeah, Commodore Ty. I hated spending the 4,300. Yeah, I'm fading right there with you guys. I know. So the reason I am actually building this right now is because, as you guys have seen over the past couple streams, I've been having a lot of computer issues. My laptop was not really designed to be ran this hard. Like it's an impressive laptop. It's an MSI GS75. So it has a lot of power in it, but I take it to these industrial sites. There's lots of sand all over the place, and it's just not holding up very well. And honestly, within like a couple months of me getting it, an electrician actually knocked it off, and it slammed on the ground. Now, thankfully, nothing broke on it except some external little bends and stuff. But it was really annoying, and it clearly wasn't designed for what I've been putting it through. So I'm trying to get a computer I can use here in the home office and give this one a rest so that I only have to be using it when I'm in the field and really kind of expand my investment on that laptop. Let's see. Well, I just figured out that I was trolling about the screwdriver. Yeah, I'm a few minutes behind in the chat, geek. Admiral Saval's computer costs $8,000. Remember that, Life with Matthew. Yeah, Robert. So that is the difference. When you make the computer yourself, you're going to save a lot of money. And I think it's something anyone can do with a little bit of patience, a little bit of encouragement to do so. I do think this is something most people can do. And it's something that I hope to walk through the process today so that anyone who wants to build it themselves could. Maybe when you put the CPU in and you have to spread the heat sink or the heat compound, the thermal paste, you might want to have a friend around who knows computers who can help you with that. But beyond that, everything's pretty clicked together. Thomas Potts wants to know, where's the screen thing? The monitor? I got the monitor off to the side. I thought about buying some new monitors, but I got to make these last a little bit longer. Josh Street, my laptop was designed to take Matthew Torture Tuesdays, or you're going to get a bigger computer. Yeah, I had to get a bigger computer. So with that said, that's why I got the Ryzen 9 5950. Let me tell you why I got this specific motherboard. So this is the Ars Master, the X57. So right now AMD has two separate chipsets that you can get, predominantly two, that you can get for your processor, or for the AMD processors. There is the BX, or the X, what is it called? It's something like 480, I think it is, 450. Yeah, the X450. Or you can get the X570. And the 450 chipset, and you can see everyone that's a 560, it's going to say it big. It's going to say it real big right at the front, X570. They want to let you know that this is the more expensive one. Whereas the 450 is still a good motherboard. The main difference is that the 570 is designed to take the new generation of PCI Express slots. So with PCI Express, you need to remember two things. First of all, you have your generation line. We are up to generation 4. With every generation, the speed doubles of PCI Express. The second thing you need to remember is how many lanes are given to a specific slot. So whenever we talk about PCI Express, we talk about it being generation, so many slots. So this motherboard has generation 4 X16. That means one slot has 16 lanes that it can talk to the processor. So the more lanes you have, the faster you're going to be sending data back and forth. And the higher your generation, the faster it's going to be talking. So as a way of example, if I have generation 3 X16, and let's just say, for an example, this isn't an accurate number, but let's say it can move 16 units a second, or 16 units a cycle. That's for generation 3, 16 lanes, 16 cycles, or 16 units a cycle. If I go to generation 4, I can do that 16 units a cycle with 8 lanes. So now my 8 lanes are doing the same amount as the last generation 16 lanes. Or another way of putting it would be, if I have a generation 1 PCI Express 16, and that one 16 can do 16 units a cycle, 16 data units a cycle. Once I get up to generation 4, my generation 4 with a single lane can do as much data as a generation 1 could with 16 lanes. So see, each generation we double the amount of speed. So with the X570, they were specifically designed to meet the demands of generation 4 PCI Express so that you can get the most speed out of it. Now, I say that, but there is a complication here. If you look at the back of your box, or you're looking at the specs, it's going to talk about what sort of PCI Express slots it has, which I thought I would say it right here on it. It doesn't specifically. So this is one of the things you have to look at when you get your motherboard. It's actually going to say, based on your CPU, it can only do a certain number of PCI Express slots. So there are some motherboards that might have 3 PCI Express slots that are 16 lanes, and then 2 that are more like 4 lanes or 1 lane. And it might be that your processor can't support all that. So that's some of the confusing things, because when you look at the motherboard, it's like, if you have a Ryzen 9000, this is what you can do. If you can have a Ryzen 5000, this is what you can do. Oh, and by the way, if you have a Ryzen 5000 from last generation, it can only do this much. Because for some reason, Intel and AMD both decided that they were going to use the same kind of numbers across generations. So, you have your i7, and that's your kind of the main idea of the processor. There's the i7 line, but now it's the 2020 model. Now it's the 2019 model, and they'll designate that by changing the next digit. So you have your i7 9000 or your i7 10000. So they just make it overly complicated instead of just being really upfront. Like, hey, this year we're using this name, And this year we're going to use that name over there. It's like, it's all the same kind of name. You got to pay real close attention as you're getting stuff. But the reason I did go with this one specifically is, one, I need the X570. And what this is going to allow me to do is it's going to have me a total of 24 PCI Express lanes that I can share across all my different devices. So my video card will have 16 lanes dedicated to it. With Generation 4, I can probably drop that back to 8 and not have any sort of bottlenecks. Like, I'll still probably get the exact same performance even though I have a nice video card to put in it. I'll try and test that a little at some point. But in theory, I could dedicate all 16 lanes to the processor, and now I have 8 lanes remaining. 4 of those PCI Express lanes are going to be dedicated to storage solutions. And then the last 4 are given to me by the X570 chipset. If I had the exact same Ryzen 9 CPU in a X450 chipset motherboard, I would not have those 4 lanes. I would only have 20 lanes of PCI Express instead of 24. And that's one of the main reasons I went for the X570. I wanted those extra 4 lanes so that I could really make the most out of my peripherals that I'm going to be attaching to it without having to worry about slowdown at any point. And the other reason, so that's why I got X570, but the reason I got this motherboard specifically is as I get into it, which I'm going to go ahead and do this now because we're not just here to see me talk about this stuff. We're here to see me put it together and hopefully not break anything. So the reason I got this, if I can actually get it out of the box without breaking it, my goodness. Holy crap, it's in there. All right, there we go. Nice little box, why not? So the reason I got this one is because the X570s, they are using so much power these days that you actually need a dedicated cooling fan on the 570 chipset, which is what this guy is right here. Now, most of the 570s, I've heard a lot of complaints about these fans becoming this high-pitch, annoying squeal as it heats up. So as the chipset is doing more and more, it actually is starting to overheat to the point that the fan's going so fast that you get this really annoying whine going on. This motherboard in particular, if I flip it over here, you'll see it has this giant heat spreader all over the back of it. And as a result, the fan doesn't have to run too much. Like, it still runs, but it's not running anywhere near as much as it is normally or much as it is otherwise. And this motherboard, let's see, this one ran me about $400, which is kind of on the higher side for the 570. I say higher, it's kind of right in the middle. It's not the baseline. You can get a lot more expensive 570 units out there. But the reason I got this one specifically was, one, it also had the 3 M.2 slots, which at the time I was planning to use more M.2 slots. But the more I read up about it, the more I realized that I'm actually going to be bottlenecking on the speed of my M.2 drives if I use all 3 of them. Because only this first one has direct lanes to the CPU. The bottom 2 down here actually have their data routed through the chipset. And the chipset, it has things like the SATA ports, it has things like the USB on the back, it has things like the Wi-Fi, which I'm not going to use Wi-Fi, but still Wi-Fi is going to be going through the chipset. So all that shares 4 PCI Express lanes. So if I start to put my M.2 drives down here, I'm actually going to be limited on how fast they can go. It's actually better for me to be using more SATA drives for things that don't need fast access and reserve this one M.2 slot for things that need a lot of access. So that's why I went with this one specifically, because hopefully by having this giant heat spreader on the back, I'm not going to be getting that high-pitched scream out of the 570 chips fan. The other reason, the other big selling point for me on this one specifically is with this heatsink, I'm hoping that it's going to reinforce the overall structure of the motherboard, because a lot of people right now, we put these giant cooling fans on our CPU. And my goodness, I have a giant of a cooling fan to show you guys here in a little bit. But because we're using these giant cooling fans, it's actually causing the board to warp, and we're starting to see motherboards breaking. So I'm hoping that by using or by having this heat spreader all over the back, and it will provide more support across the motherboard and will save me from my my fan breaking the motherboard in half, as it were. So let me make sure I got this where you guys can see it. I'm going to go and put the CPU in to start things off here. And let me make sure I'm in the right spot. Oh, wow, everyone's been talking. Well, I'm glad you guys are talking. Let me make sure I'm in. Yeah, Roxelle wants to know, am I using lapel monitors? I am not. Although I think I know someone who did a good review of them. I think his name was Gary. Yeah, he does this. He does really fun reviews of video game stuff and also some monitors every once in a while. But not me. I haven't used the lapel monitors. Josh is saying, if a 6-year-old can build a computer with some help, then you can, Matthew. Exactly. Did I get the X570 or the older X570 that will need the BIOS update? That is a great question, Josh Street, and I don't know yet. So this actually has two different revisions. I'm trying to see which one I got here. Okay, I got the revision 1.2. Thank goodness. Which honestly it should be. I bought this brand new within the past week. So there is a 1.0 version of the Aorus Master. I think that one would need the BIOS update. I am still going to make sure that it has the most up-to-date BIOS before I start installing anything on it, but we'll see when that time comes, Josh. So hopefully I don't need to do the update to be able to make my CPU compatible with it. Hopefully it's just good out of the box. But if it's not, one of the nice things about this motherboard is that it has a dedicated slot, I believe, for BIOS updates. Yeah, so it's this white one right here, and hopefully you can see it on the camera. But it is dedicated where you can put in the BIOS, a USB with the BIOS file on it, and actually click one of these two buttons. I forget which one it is, and it will update the BIOS for you without having to do much loading of anything. So worst case scenario, I will do the quick BIOS update in this white one right here. Best case scenario, I got the most up-to-date BIOS that they offer for it. Life with Matthew would probably be better off with the TRS-80. Are you talking about monitors? I'm not sure what the TRS-80 is. Thomas Potts wants to know, is there a fatherboard? There is not. The reason we call these motherboards is because way back in the day, they actually used to have things called daughter boards. And the daughter boards would be what you plug into like your ISA slots back in the day. You know, ISA became PCI, and we had the AGP that was just for video cards, and now we have PCI Express, which can do video cards or any card in the world. And one of the nice things here, if you have a PCI Express device, you can put that PCI Express in any of the PCI Express slots. So if I have one that takes 16 lanes, but I only have a 1 lane open, congratulations, you can put that video card in a 1X slot. It will physically fit there, even though you have this huge amount unused. They're designed to be backwards and forward compatible. So you won't get the benefit, like why put a video card in a 1X slot? You're going to lose so much of the power of the video card. But in theory, you could do it. And conversely, if you have a device that only needs a 1X size slot, then you can still put in a 16X. It just won't use all 16 lanes. But at least you can bump them around like that. The Trash 80? I'm missing a reference there, Professor Brainy Specs and Rock Solid. I apologize. And you remember using the Trash 80s in high school? I so don't remember that. Stream title should be Watch Life from Matthew talk about building. I'll start building it in a second. Get to blowing things up. Yes, well, let's start building this. Sorry, it's just like anyone who's watching this in the future, these are kind of the two most important things you're going to buy as you put it into your computer. So I really want to explain why I got this to help anyone thinking about doing it themselves. But let's go ahead and pick up the pace here and start assembling this together. Life with Matthew, most motherboards only have one PCI slot that is 16X and 2 slots with 8X and sometimes 1 slot with 4X. So you can see with mine, I have 3 16X slots. Uh-oh. Okay, there it goes. I don't know why it's going to be doing that, but it's going to be doing that for a little bit. Sorry, guys. So you can see I got the 3 with 16X slots and then 1 with a 1X slot. Now, only these two 16X slots are directed connectly to the CPU. It's going to be able to split it into 8X and 8X if I ever wanted to add a second video card or something else, but Otherwise, this last one, along with this 1X slot, both go through the chipset. Andrea Seabrook, how are you doing today? Totally boring for the other sex. I'm sorry that this is a little boring. Heat Spreader, how are you doing? Doing pretty good, I think. And yes, this can be for men and women. Everyone can enjoy this sort of content, I hope. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure that I'm reading any comment that's asking questions or something. No, the motherboard doesn't have a cup holder. Yeah, I know. I don't know what a trash 80 is. 5 hours later, Matthew's talked out and might try putting the computer together tomorrow. Okay. Let's start putting this together. So, let's see here, guys. Oh, that's nice. So I love that they do this giant box. And what do they put in the box? Just some spacer stuff. Because it's a pretty empty box. It's 100% just marketing. All right, garbage in, garbage out. There we go. So in terms of installing a CPU, super easy. No muss, no fuss. You're going to raise this little locking lever. There we go. Your CPU is now ready to be inserted. Now, unfortunately, I'm getting older, so it's harder to see where the triangles are. So on your CPU, oh my goodness, I have so many pins to say. It has been a long time since I built a CPU. But on the CPU, there is one corner that has a little triangle notch in it. And that triangle notch is going to have a companion one down below. If I can actually find everything. There we are. You don't want to overforce it. It's just going to plop right in. And once it's in, you're going to just real nice and gently push it down. And hopefully you haven't broken anything. Now, this is ultimately on my work computer. So as a result, I'm not going to be doing anything crazy with my build. I would love to delid this and be able to replace all the thermal compound they put in there ineffectively and efficiently with my own thermal compound. I'd love to be able to do water cooling with all this, but this is still my work computer. So I've got to keep things pretty tame. So we're just going to do a very straightforward and easy build as I do this. And let's go ahead and move this a little bit so hopefully it's better in the shot. Josh is saying, check the CPU pins. Sometimes they can be bent, and don't drop the CPU. My goodness, don't drop the CPU. Yeah. So yeah, the CPU pins, everything looked fine on that. Nothing major there. Matthew lost his computer nerd cred. No, I haven't lost my computer nerd cred. But yes, I did miss out on things. I think the first computer I used was an 89. So if it was before 89, I think the ZX Spectrum, or ZX, if you want to say, the ZX Spectrum, I didn't have that. But I do remember, and I do remember being super excited when computers started to get things like hard drives. That was pretty awesome. Will it be as good as AMD or Intel? I hope so, rock solid. I hope my computer will be that good. Oh, am I building a CPU? No, I'm not building a CPU. I was just talking about, it's so cool to actually delid a CPU. Because you know, they have, the what you see on top here, this part is actually just a heat spreader. And it has thermal compound on the CPU itself. And then they put this heat spreader on top, and then you put thermal compound on top of the heat spreader, and you know, it works its way out. So I would love to take it off and get rid of the heat compound that they use and put on my own heat compound, because oftentimes you'll delid a CPU, and you'll find that it's just not making a good even spread across all the points. And that's why you'll have one core that's always thermal throttling for some reason. How many Kurogen orphans were used to make the motherboard? 0. 0. I'm putting Intel in an AMD motherboard. No, Josh Street, I'm not. Am I building a warp core? That would be pretty cool, Thomas, but no. So one more thing before I actually put my computer or my motherboard in the case. 2 things actually. One, thinking about putting the fan on outside of the motherboard or outside the case. My fan may have been my first mistake of this build. We will find out once we actually get in the CPU inside the case. But as much as you can build outside of the case, the better. So I am going to go ahead and put in my RAM 6 real quick. And I went with the Trident Z RGB, which I'm not being sponsored for anything I bought here today, guys. This is all stuff that I got after extensive research. And I know it's not that I'm unwilling to be sponsored. I'm willing to, chill out. It's just that no one is sponsoring this. This is all just me. Now, this comes with RGB and all sorts of nonsense like that. I do not care about the pretty colors. If I could have gotten some memory sticks without the colors, I absolutely would have. But this is what I got. So this is what I took. Each one of these sticks is 16 gigs, so I got a total of 64 gigs I'm going to be putting into my system today. And again, this one hurt. On the RAM, each one of these kits was around $300, so it's $604 in total. You don't need 64 gigabytes of RAM, people. I had to do this much simply because I am running virtual machines all the time, and as a result, I start to run out of RAM pretty quickly. I wish I didn't, but them's the breaks. So we're just going to pretty easily make sure that all the RAM sockets are open just by pulling these latches back. There we go. And it is keyed in so that it can only be put in one way. So once I make sure that I got it in the right way, which I do, yep, I'm just going to click it on home. As you push it down, it will lock in place. There you go. And you're just going to do that for each one. Now, if you weren't doing all 4 RAM sockets installed, you need to make sure that you are paying attention to what your motherboard says is channel A and channel B. Most RAM is designed to be used in a pair, and you want to make sure that you are putting it in the correct RAM socket so that you have the pairs paired up correctly. But since I'm using all 4, it honestly doesn't matter. Typically speaking, they'll do 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. So just keep that in mind as you're building your own. One of the other options you can do is often it is cheaper to buy more RAM of a lower capacity. So if you wanted to, you might save a buck to fill up all 4 with, say, like if you wanted 32 gigs of RAM, buy 4 sticks of 8 gigs instead of buying 1 32 stick or 2 sticks of 32 gigs. And we can get this out of the way. And we got a card. Become a G-Skill member. I won't. And I'm ignoring chat. I'm not trying to, Rock Solid. I am trying to keep up with it. And Professor Brainspec saying he has to go back to work shortly. Oh, sorry to hear that. Josh Reed, what speed is the RAM I'm going to get? And you might have to change the RAM speed in the BIOS. That is very true. So one of the interesting things about RAM these days is it can go much faster than the CPU can. Or much faster. And so you kind of have to tweak that in places. So the one I got is actually the max that the CPU is natively designed for. So I'm not going to be doing timing stuff in the CPU. I did get 16, 16, 16, 36, which if you don't know what that means, that's okay. It's called the latency timing, also sometimes CAS timing. And the first one is what people really care about these days, that 16 number. But all 4 of them go together to describe how fast your RAM is going to be able to access and send data back and forth. So the lower those numbers, the faster you're going. And that is the reason I chose these specifically, because everything else was 16, 18, 18, 39. This was the only 16, 16, 16, 36 RAM that I could find in store or online, because everything's in a shortage these days, guys. So that's why I went with these, and that's why I'm going to have some real pretty LEDs, which I'll probably just turn off. If I can turn these LEDs off, I'll probably just turn them off completely. Okay, so that takes care of that. Get all this off to the side because I don't care about it and it's cluttering up my workspace. Honestly, I still can't believe that they do this giant box for the CPU and they could get away with something like a tenth that size. Let's see. Andrea Seabook, Knife with Matthew is acting like we're here in chat are just a bunch of annoying hecklers. I think we should revolt. I'm not doing that, Andrea. John DeMarcos is saying, sorry, hope you have a good day. Very true. Impeach Matthew. Yeah, I'm the worst, but it's okay. $600 for RAM memory. Yikes, that's Alex Kurtzman money. Yeah, so honestly, if I could get away with just doing 32, because my laptop has 32 gigs of RAM in it, and I'm bottlenecking a lot. Like I'm having difficulty at times keeping my system stable because I'm running out of RAM while I have so many virtual machines open. So one of the things I knew I was going to have to do with this build is add more RAM. So if you're keeping track, I didn't need to get as powerful, like most people wouldn't need a CPU this powerful. Most people could be able to save probably $300 on the processor alone. Most people, if you want to go really all out, 32 gigs is plenty, and you could save another $300. So at home, you're already saving like $600 building a PC on your own. So instead of it being $4,300, now you're looking at $3,700 of just the things I've gotten right now. And there's a lot more places you personally could be saving money and still be getting a top-of-the-line, high-end PC. So with all this built, we're going to go to my case, because I made a couple mistakes with my case. We'll talk about them as we get there. Mako's saying, I have no idea what's the most expensive, or that's the most expensive memory I've heard of. Yeah, it wasn't cheap. It is all the RAM, rock solid. I'm not ignoring the chat. It takes me a minute to get to it. Let's see. 4 sticks of 4 gigabytes runs faster than 1 stick of 16 or 2 of 8 gigs. That is true-ish. And the reason for that is, like I was saying, most RAM is designed to be used in what's called dual channel mode. Some of them are now quad channel, which unfortunately I haven't seen any of those. If you want something like that, I think you have to go to the true top end stuff. So I got the top end of the desktop line. If I want to go even higher, I'd be looking at a Threadripper. And I really wanted to get a Threadripper, but that would be doubling the cost of just the CPU and then doubling again the motherboard. So it wasn't financially worth it for me to get a Threadripper, even though that would have been so fun to get. But in terms of dual channel, it does mean that if you're using 2 sticks of less RAM in both channels, so like instead of doing 1 8 gig stick, I'm doing 2 4 gig sticks, you are getting a faster response time because the CPU is actually accessing both of those back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to create your 8 gigs instead of just one on one single stick of RAM. So you're effectively doubling the amount of speed you can get out of these. So yes, it's absolutely. Now in terms of getting 4 2 gigabyte sticks, you'll probably see some. I'll give that to you, LDG. I'll give that to you. I think you probably would see a small increase at the very least. Try harder on your left. Thank you, rock solid. Andrea's saying, you reject my false screen that I'm trying to keep up with the chat, and yet here I am, keeping up with the chat just a few minutes late. And yes, Bradley Briggs, the other reason this has been such an expensive build as it is because parts are overpriced right now. They're beyond overpriced. And you're having to deal with that as you build this stuff. So we're going to go ahead and get my case over here and this thing, my CPU fan. So when I got this, one of the primary goals I have in this build is I want a very quiet system. And I'm just tired of hearing these fans right next to me all the time. So I've done my research and I wanted to get this Noctua. What is this? This is the NHD15, specifically designed for the AMD processor line of CPUs. And I saw that we have really great reviews on it. They are low speed, high airflow. So I'm moving a lot of air through at lower speeds and it creates less noise. I did not know how giant this thing was. This is a ridiculously sized heatsink. And it's also an expensive heatsink. This was one of the few things I did kind of splurge on. Everything else, it's like, I need this for a specific reason. I need the memory and I need the CPU in order to be able to run my virtual machines to do my job and make a living. This was one where I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to pay just a little bit more and hopefully have a quieter system. This was $100. You could easily find a heatsink for $50 or cheaper. That is out of this world phenomenal in terms of getting heat away. But I did specifically get this one because I wanted something that was quieter. Now, they do also, let's see, this comes with it's going to come with the splitter because it has 2 fans, and most motherboards only have a single 4-pin header to connect the fan up to provide power. This has a splitter so that both fans on this can run at the same speed and be controlled just by one single header instead of having to eat it all up. Let's see if there's anything special I have to do. So this is the last thing I want to do before I put it in the case, simply because I may have to modify the back end of it in order to actually get this to go. Hopefully, since this is designed specifically for AMD processors, all I have to do is connect it right to it. So nope. Step 1, we have to remove the stock retention module. First, remove the motherboard's stock CPU cooler retention module by unscrewing it from the back plate. The secured Firm 2 mounting system will install directly to the stock backplate. So please keep it in place. All right. So here's the first, I hope I know what I'm doing moment of this build. So what it's talking about here is that if you use a standard heatsink fan, you just put it right into these 2 lock systems and you're good to go. And then on the back side here, you have this back plate that it's going to connect to. And you can see the idea is that it's going to spread the tension of putting that fan across a wide area so that it doesn't break, hopefully. So with this one, Noctua requires a little bit of a different mounting system. So we are going to go ahead and take off the old one and put on the new one. And I'm going to do this one at a time because they're saying they don't want you to take the stock backplate off. And I think if I took all 4 screws off, or both sides, I think that backplate would fall off. So let's carefully take just one side off and put on the other side. And then we'll put the other side, and then we'll take the other side off. So here is one side down. Let's see, Memphis Sky, what thermal paste am I going to be using? I am going to be using the Cryonaut Thermal Grizzly paste. I thought about doing liquid metal. I said, nope. It has not been around long enough, in my opinion, to know what long-term impact that's going to be. Like, I don't know how long-term it's going to last. So I'm going to do something where I can put it on and, 3-5 years from now, I don't ever have to worry about taking off my fan and putting new heatsink compound down. That is my goal here. Let's see. Attaching the mounting bars. Choose either the short NM-AMB4 or the long NM-AB5 mounting bars according to the desired final orientation of the cooler. All right. I think I'm going to want NMB4 because if I'm looking at this right, let's see. Okay, yep, there is I got to orient this way. All right. So this picture is showing me that the lock bar is down like this. And it has the fan going front to back. And that's how I want it. Otherwise, the AMB5 would let you do it from top to bottom and exhaust that fan up. I'm going to do front to back. So my current idea for the airflow, this is a little wonky. I'm going to try a couple different configurations, but my initial idea here is I'm going to have a 140mm fan coming in from the top. And then right next to it, another 140 going out. So I'm going to have this cooling right on the CPU, and then exhaust coming out right next to it. And as a result, I'm actually going to have 120, my air being pulled in from the back of the system because it's going to be out in the open. It's not going to be shoved up somewhere where I would have a lot of hot air in the back. So I'm going to let it pull cool air from the outside, come across the CPU, and that exhaust heat is going to go out the other 140mm fan and out the front of the case. And then at the bottom of my CPU, the bottom of my case, excuse me, I'm going to have 2 more 120mm fans. This is going to push air across the GPU and move that air out to the back. Now, a lot of people will point out that hot air rises. However, when you have fans pushing air, the rate at which hot air rises is negligible. It is going to be pushed far faster, far further by the fans than just by the slow rate at which hot air rises. So that's not something I'm really worried about. You thought I was unzipping my pants? No, Thomas, gross. Absolutely gross. I'm not doing that. And then Andrew is saying, I'm off to Cinema Saturday over at Bird of Prey 5. Give him my hello. Where there is more chick-friendly. Let me know when Life of Matthew gets past the part where he's hot gluing rhinestones and glitter to the motherboard. Oh, now that's an idea. I'm not sure if that would provide any additional benefits, but definitely something worth thinking about, Andrea. So let's see how to do this. These are the shorter, me and my old man eyes now. These are the shorter A and B for devices, and I want to configure it like this. Let's see, first, put the plastic spacers right here. I don't know why I'm trying to rip it open like a Neanderthal. I got a knife I could be using. Much better. All right. So first I'm going to put the plastic spacers on, and hopefully, this will give enough height to get over my RAM, which it may not. And let me pull the motherboard out a little bit so that y'all can see what I'm doing as I do it. All right. So next, with the plastic spacer in place, take this guy, and we're just going to put him right like that. Look at that. All happy. That's a happy little bush right there. Okay, then we are going to screw the threads of the back plate. Let's see. And fix the mounting bars using the 4 long screws. All right? Pretty straightforward and easy. We're just going to plop this in here. And I'm going to start threading it by hand. That way I don't cross-thread it. The last thing you want to do is ruin a fancy motherboard by being impatient and slamming this screw in. Perfect, right like that. Yes, John DeMarco, I did say a happy little bush. You know, pulling out my inner Simmons. Simmons? No, Bob Ross. No, Simmons was a weird workout guy. Okay, so I think that by doing it like this, what I have just avoided is I've made sure that the back plate doesn't fall off as I put things together. And now that we've done that, we're just going to take off this other stock fan mount. How old are those babies? What? Yeah, thank goodness guys like to build things from kit or else IKEA would be out of stock. You know, it's not like guys actually like IKEA, I don't think. I think it's that even if guys didn't like building things from stock, I think the women would still be so in love with IKEA that a man, in his desire to impress the woman and care for her too, care for her, would still try to put together himself. But man, those IKEA things are just, you get like this little IKEA, like a dresser, and it has like 100 parts in it. I go, it's 3 drawers in a back. How on earth does this have 100 parts? But my goodness, it really does. Melphis Sky wants to know, how much did everything cost in Kurogan money? That is an excellent question. You would have to ask Bird of Prey 5. I'm not sure what the current conversion rate is from Kurogan rounds to American dollars. I believe the Kurogan round is very sought for in America right now. Like, I think there's a shortage of rounds in America. Okay, so it looks like I did everything right here. Step 3, applying thermal paste. I'm actually not going to do that step right now. And here's why. Because this fan is so huge, I'm not certain if it's actually going to fit inside my case right now. I might need an entirely different fan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear off my work area, kind of unceremoniously. And I'm going to get the case up here at this point. And we're going to find out, do a loose fitting, and discover, will this at all fit inside my case? Or am I going to have to stop things and go get a new case? You know, I say that, but one more thing we could do before I start worrying about that is I can go ahead and install my one NVMe. NVMe? That just sounds wrong, but it's right. But I don't know. Sometimes I am dyslexic, and sometimes I'll say something, and I'm like, there's no way that can be right. And it is, but it'll just drive me nuts for the whole day because it sounds wrong to me, even though it's right. So NVMe, this is the single PCI Gen 4x4 that I got. I'm going to put it right here in the first slot because that is the one that has the access directly to CPU. And my thought process here is in Windows, which I need to use Windows for work, but in Windows, you can actually set up a storage pool. And by setting up the storage pool, I can basically create a cache, a high-speed cache with a larger solid-state drive behind it. So that is my goal right here. I'm going to have my NVMe 4x4 set up as a cache. And it is a terabyte big, so it's a little overkill. But by doing it this way, if I can get the bloody thing out, by doing it this way, I'll actually improve my read and write speeds by quite a bit. Frequently accessed files will be put onto a high-speed area by Windows, and whenever I'm writing to the drive, it will first be written to the cache under high speed, and then it will slowly be written over to the hard drive itself. And that screwdriver's too big. Andrea's saying she's not a fan of DIY, but she is a fan of DIFM, aka do it for me. That's cool. Hey, if everyone could build computers and program, I'd be out of a job. I'd flat out be out of a job. I tell people that all the time. So I'm glad that not everyone can do the things I do, because I certainly can't do the things other people can do. And let's see, this guy goes in like so, but I need to move this peg up. So NVMe drives that come in different sizes, and mine is not the 110, it's the 80. And I think I should just be able to unscrew this and move it up. But it's not doing it for me. So I don't think this came with a new standoff screw. It did not. Let's see what the owner's manual has to say here. This is high quality entertainment right here. Watching me read a manual. Try to get this in the right spot. But I'm pretty sure all I have to do is move this standoff screw. It's just I don't want to try and force it out and then find out that you're not supposed to force it and have broken my motherboard. So step 1, get a screw and a standoff from the included M.2 screw and standoff packs. Locate the M.2 connector where you will install your M.2 SSD. Use the screwdriver to unfasten the screw on the heatsink and then remove the heatsink. Locate the proper mounting hole. So it sounds like they're saying there's supposed to be a pack of goodies in here that I didn't see. Aha! Oh! Yeah! That is a pack of goodies. Look at that! Woo! It's a whole giant pack of goodies right there. My goodness. I say look at that, but you can't see it. It's hidden behind my desk. You think I should zoom in my little camera on the top right so you can see my face? Okay. I was trying to give a more bigger view. Yeah, I can zoom it in a little bit. There we go. Okay, let me zoom it in a little bit. It's not like you can see what I'm working on from that one anyway. Ah. Oh gosh. Everything's everywhere. Zoom. Now here's the problem. I have no idea how much I've zoomed in right now. That may be way too much to zoom. We'll find out. We will find out. Because unfortunately, once I start to zoom in, all I can see is my green screen. Well, interesting thing. I have in fact zoomed in, Andrea, but now I gotta do a squat because I've cut off my own head. If only there was someone around who could help me with this. But I'm pretty sure my lovely assistant is currently probably putting my daughter to nap time. That's okay. Just remember, right now, I could be talking about doing something. I could be talking about putting something together, because we both know that I haven't been putting anything together. But I could be talking about it, but someone had a good idea, and here I am doing it. Okay, there you go. That is, I got the camera a little far away right now, but that's the maximum zoom I can get right now. All right, so we've got that in place. Now I can just slip this guy in. Oh, can I slip this guy in? There we are. Slip that guy in, and now I can screw it down with one of this handy dandy pack. And I'll show you. I opened up the bottom of it, and it turned out there was a whole lot more stuff. Like, I had no idea there's all this stuff included in the motherboard. I was just being completely blind. I'm not sure why they've done it such that you have a single plastic baggie for one of the standoff screws, and then you have another plastic baggie for the screw that goes in the standoff screw. Like, why not put them in the same bag? It seems like a waste of baggies. All those poor sea creatures choking to death on our plastic baggies. I gotta get a drink. All right, let's see if I can't get this in here. I really need to magnetize these screws, or these screwdrivers, I should say. Let's see, maybe one of my smaller ones is magnetized. Hope so. There we go. So I bought these giant red screwdrivers. Oh, about 10 years ago. And the nice thing about this giant red screwdriver is that it is insulated up to 10,000 volts. No, only 1,000. Excuse me. This one is only 1,000 volts. And I got these when I first started doing the line of work that I do now. We're going to industrial job sites and, building stuff out there. Because if by accident I were to poke this somewhere, being an idiot and not realizing that that circuit was still live, this will protect me from killing myself up to 1,000 volts. And it was definitely one of the first purchases I made, and I'm very glad I did make it. And I do my best to keep these in good working order, because they are protected all the way up the shaft, right up until the tip. And that means that if I brush against something, I'm not suddenly energizing and risking my life. Weird, I know. It's just, I don't like risking my life. I do not like it, Sam I am. Poor Dr. Seuss. Being canceled over silliness. We're going to take off all this stuff. I hate this stuff. It just gets everywhere. It's sticky. Whoops. Nope. Come back. Bird stream doesn't start for another 45 minutes. Oh, good. That means you get to hang out with us a little bit longer. Oh, that's true, Andre. I am hunched over a lot of the build, but it works. Let's see. Bradley wants to know, how did I go from checking to see if the air cooler was too big to putting in the M.2 drive? Well, there's just one more thing I could do before getting the case up here. So I do try to do as much as I can outside the case before I put things in, because once you get the case, it's really hard to work on things. Like your angles become very limited. And so I just wanted to do as much as I could prior to actually doing anything with it. So one of the things about the M.2 that I got, you can see that it comes with a giant heatsink on it. Now, if this heatsink wasn't here, the nice thing about this drive or this motherboard is that this cover I took off is a heatsink. So thankfully I already have one. I don't need this one. But if you just had a bare M.2 drive in there, you can put this guy in the top and it'll sit right up against your M.2, and it will help keep it cool, because one of the biggest impacts to the performance of your M.2 drive, your NVMe drives, is heat. As it heats up, it throttles big time. So getting heat away from it, very, very important. Thankfully, not going to have to worry about it. Well, I probably will still have to worry about it, but I don't have to worry about putting on a heatsink for it. let's get all this out of the way and get this behemoth of a case up here. So for this case, I went with the Lian Li. Oh, don't drop this on the motherboard, please. Whew. The Lian Li Land Cool 2 Mesh. And the reason I went with this massive thing is precisely because I've watched so many reviews on computer cases, trying to figure out which one would be best for me. And what I discovered in my research is that this case is one of the best cases out there for airflow. Having this case will allow me to have the most fans at the lowest speeds with the lowest air noise, keeping my system the coolest possible. However, one thing I forgot to do was actually check and make sure it had everything I needed. So for instance, this case, let's see, I should just be able to pull off the front. There we are. This case does not have any 5.25 inch drive bays. So I cannot put gotta get this out of the way somewhere. I cannot put a DVD drive in there. I came up with what I humbly would say is a rather clever solution, which I will not be getting into today. I got a couple more steps I gotta do before I actually start that issue. And let's see, I should be able to just, yep, there we go. You can pull off this entire side piece and have access to your working area without having it flapping around on you. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to set it off to the side here. We're going to loosely put in the motherboard, which, you know what? It looks like they already have the stands in the right spots for me. So that's nice. Just kind of real gently do a test fit on that. Let's see, is that? Well, it looks like I'll have to move some things around. That's fine. Nothing can be perfect. Well, or can it? Maybe if I just got it completely in the right spot, I would find that my standoff screws pretty close. Now, unfortunately, let's see if I can't. I'm going to try and get this as close as possible so that you guys can see straight into here with as little interference as I can arrange. I think that's the best I'm going to be able to get, guys. Sorry I can't get a little bit closer than that. Let's see, Geeks Enjoy Neurotica. Would I get some less bottleneck if I plug the M.2 into the second slot? Not on the AMD line of processors. That's a great question, though. So for this line of processors, this first M.2 slot is the 4 lanes dedicated specifically for storage solutions on this motherboard. So I have 16 lanes in the first PCIe slot. I have 4 in this NVMe 2 slot, the first one. And then I have 4 more provided by the X570 chipset that shares the second PCIe slot, or the third one, excuse me. The second one is actually split up, so I could do a total of 16 between these two. So we have this last 16 PCIe slot that goes to the X570, along with the 2 NVMe drives and the 1 PCIe 1X slot. And that all goes to the 570. So this actually is the best spot possible for this one drive. If I started to add more drives, I do think I'd get some bottleneck. Let's see. And Robert is saying that Andrea is a very good independent news source. I agree. Melf Sky wants to know, should I be using an anti-static wristband? I could if I wanted to. Like, honestly, it's less of an issue than people make it out to be. Like in a professional environment, I would. Like if it was my job to build these full time, I certainly would. But as it is, I mean, I touch anything that's grounded, make sure I don't have any discharge, and then I touch the sensitive stuff, and that's just as good. And I'm wearing I'm wearing rubber-soled shoes. So I am doing several things to make sure that I don't generate static electricity. So here is, oh my goodness, this thing is massive. But here it is, the fan that I will be using. Just look at that. And thankfully, so right now it has a protective plastic cover on the bottom so I don't scratch things up. But thankfully, it looks like, if I put that right there, yeah, this will just this will just barely fit in the case. This is a behemoth, my goodness. But I have high hopes. High hopes for it. So let's go ahead and start putting on some thermal paste. And this might be the most controversial part of this entire build. People get really defensive about how you put thermal paste on and what sort of thermal paste you're using. Let's see. Professor Brain Specs is saying there are some USB issues with the Ryzen 5000 series and the X570 motherboards. Here are some workarounds. Oh, thank you. I will definitely need to be checking out that. Hopefully I don't have any of those issues. Should I be in a non-filtered Faraday cage? I don't think so. And lav mic sounds good. Thank you. It is a wired. So yeah, I've got like 10, 20 feet of cable stretched around my office right now. But yeah, so this is the first mic I got, and then I switched over to a shotgun mic because I feel like it gives me just a little bit more rich tone. But I've also learned a lot since then, and I think there's more things I could do in post to give me that same nice tone from a lav mic. The only issue is once you get a lav mic, you're tethered unless you do wireless, and then you have to worry and make sure that you've actually muted yourself when you go Geloja or something, you know. You demand that I build a fish tank case. Interesting. I have seen those. I'm not gonna build a fish tank case. I might build a fish tank someday though. That'd be pretty fun. It's not too difficult either. The hard part about building a fish tank. The hard part about building a fish tank is whenever you. Interesting. Give me a couple different nozzles here that I can work with. Whenever you put the silicone on, you have to make sure that it's a silicone that won't kill the fish, because it will if you don't get the right type. And it's really hard to make sure you get these nice clean beads at each of the corners, because otherwise you just got like this goopy mess everywhere and it looks disgusting. The case is boring. Oh, sorry. It is white. I didn't plan to get a white case, but it's what they had. That's going to be, man, that could be the theme of this build. It's not what I planned to get, but it's what they had. And I should plug it in as I'm working to make sure everything gets power. Yeah, I will. Thermal paste. How dare I? This is very controversial. And this is why it's controversial. Geeks and Jordan Erotics says that I do the 5 dots and 1 spread personally. So I have done a variety of different things. Today, the method I'm doing today, and this is the first time I tried this way, is I'm going to do a complete smooth covering across the entire die. Now, I've seen a lot of different ways people do it. Honestly, it all comes out to the same. With few exceptions, very few exceptions. Like there's a method where you do a dot, a line, and a dot. That one tends not to be great. There's one where you just do a single dot in the center. That does all right. Most of the cores are located in the center anyway, but it still doesn't do a nice covering all over the die. So, this time around, I am going to go just a little bit overboard and do a real thin covering across everything. But I am going to see there's a couple different ways of doing this one, and I want to see what it has to say. So clean the contact surface, all right, with a dry cloth or high percentage isopropylene. Rats. Oh, hey, you know what? I actually have both of those things. I thought I didn't have those right now. Oh, it's getting harder and harder to get through this office. I'm getting more and more just garbage built up around me. So to do this stream today, I disassembled most of my office so I could get a clear working area. because I did not want to be building this on my nice desk. My nice desk is nice. I don't want scratches all over it as I, mess things up on it. So I am just going to take a little isopropylene. This is 91% isopropylene. So it's a nice way of getting things clean. I'm just going to gently, lint-free cloth here, guys. I'm just going to gently go over the top of the CPU right there. And I'm going to get a little bit more. Kapla, Bird of Prey 5, how you doing? I'm going to be going on a while longer. People, feel free to jump in and jump out, and Bird, do feel free to start yours up, because I would be doing this no matter what, as I've spent so much time trying to get this CPU or this computer, all the pieces together so I could actually build it, that I'm chomping at the bit to get this done. And it's been a long time, so people like Linus Tech Tips, he can just go through it because he knows everything by heart. But for me, it has been quite a while since I've actually done this stuff, so I do have to go just a little bit slower than I normally would and remember how to do these different things. So I clean the CPU and the heatsink with a dry cloth and some high percentage isopropylene. Now I need to apply the thermal grease. I can apply it with the Thermal Grizzly applicator, which is just it by itself. See, they're acting like these are two different devices, and I swear they look identical to me. They look like 100% identical to me. Or I can apply it with a spatula and plastic card. My goodness, I have never seen anyone apply thermal paste with a spatula. I think that sounds nuts. Has anyone seen that? I certainly haven't. Andrew's saying, FYI, I'm sitting in a casino parking lot, charging my phone and stealing Wi-Fi. It's a shame, Andrea. You should be inside the casino stealing their Wi-Fi. Whoa. Oh, we've got to be kidding me. This? No. That comes out. Okay. Huh. It should just pop on there, but this applicator, there we go. Wow, you really had to shove that thing on. Now let's see, we're gonna get a thin layer. Hopefully not splurt this everywhere. There we go. Okay, so as I push it through, the idea is I'll be able to actually spread this out with the Thermal Grizzly itself. So to do this, I'm not gonna sit in the case. This would be such an awkward thing. So let me actually get the case kind of set to the side here. Besides, I need to, you know what? Before I do this, maybe I should make sure I got all my standoffs in the right spot. Let's see. I got one there, there. You know what? They are in the right spot. I'm not sure why I felt like I was missing them. I swear I felt like I was missing them. Let's see. I need to get this slightly adjusted. Now I'm sorry guys, I probably won't let you guys see, or you probably won't be able to see me apply this heatsink, but I'm not doing it inside the case. And I'm not getting the case out of here. It's just too much of a hassle. So I am going to do the general idea is I push it out just a little bit. I'm going to spread that across the heatsink, and we'll see how well this works. I mean, they make it look so nice on the picture. I just don't think I'm going to be able to get it that nice. No, you know what? This is actually going pretty good. I'm a little impressed. Not with myself, but with the product. Like, I think they're actually made fairly decent little applicator there. And I am going to try and come from a slightly different angle, because I do see a couple spots where it's a little threadbare. You can see, or you can't see, but hopefully you can tell by my silence during this portion that this is like one of the most critical steps, in my opinion, of your CPU build. Because everything else is pretty just click, 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 click. You're done. Getting the right amount of thermal paste on your processor is the difference between a CPU that runs nice and cool and therefore a computer that you're happy with. Because if your processor runs hot, you're going to end up being unhappy with your computer. You just are. Because the whole time you're going to be thinking this computer, it runs slow because it keeps throttling down because it gets too hot. You're not going to be happy with your device. So making sure that you get a nice even spread, making like whatever method you choose, making sure you got it the way you want it so that you get good heat transfer away from the CPU is vital to having a computer that you think in the long term works nice. So I got that all set up here. Hey Drexer, how are you doing today? I don't think I've seen you on the channel before. Welcome around. I'm so glad that you are here today. Drexer 99K, he's asking, he has a GTX 660 Ti that he needs to upgrade. Max 100 USD. Do I have any suggestions? Oh, Drexer, I wish I had a good option for you. Unfortunately, right now, the entire world is in a GPU shortage. So that I got a Strix 3070 RTX. It is, it's not the best. I never buy the best. I tend to buy about 2 notches below the best at most. It's a very good CPU or a very good GPU, but it is certainly not the most impressive. And it was certainly expensive, but even with all that, it's overpriced. Like what they're charging right now, the stores are basically doing a 15% markup of what it usually would be right now. Because of how in high demand everything is. Now, before I get my CPU put on there, or my heatsink fan on there, I'm going to go ahead and try and get my motherboard in just right, and just so. Because I'm not going to be able to screw things down. I got a giant fan in the way. Now, 660 Ti, I have seen a few video cards out there. Like you can go out right now to almost any store and buy one. I think they're worse than the 660 Ti. If you go to, if you look at a Best Buy or Micro Center, which I'm not sure if you live near a Micro Center, there's not many out there. But if you look at places like that and see what sort of video cards they actually have in stock, do a quick research on them. You're only going to find like 5 of them. Do some quick research. I think what you're going to find is that you actually have a decent enough video card for now, based on what people are offering you. Hopefully in a couple months, we get past this shortage of silicone and memory that we're having right now, and you can find a video card for a decent price. But right now, you're not going to be finding anything. And also right now, I need to find let's see, there should be screws in one of these. Wi-Fi. And the screws, I need my motherboard screws. Motherboard, where are my screws? What on earth? I have never gotten a motherboard that didn't come with just a ton of screws for actually attaching it to the case. What on earth? What on earth? I'm trying to see if maybe I dropped it somewhere. So I got the driver CD because, oh yeah, I'm going to need a driver CD. Honestly, who even uses driver CDs anymore? I really don't like my thermal paste just sitting there this long. I'd prefer to have it getting a fan stuck to it by now. I'm just looking everywhere. I do apologize about this. Got the standoff screws for the M.2 drive. Got some Velcro straps because that's super important. Let's see, maybe this guy came with some. Let's see what we got here. That'll do. That will do. I'm still shocked. I would have thought for sure my motherboard would have included, everything I need to screw it down, but at least the case has everything. That's nice. Geeks Enjoying Neurotica saying don't forget to repress it after I apply it. That's pretty good advice. Uh-oh. Hopefully that screw wasn't important. All right, here we go. Let's see if I even got this in the right spot. It's hard to tell. Everything is black on black inside this case. And now I'm putting black screws into it. So I'm not sure if I really got this lined up yet or not. Okay, yep, that one looks good. Yeah, all right. That looks decent enough. LDG supports repression. That's funny. No, he's talking about the heatsink I put on there. It does tend to get bubbles in it, and sometimes you need to kind of press it out a second time. Okay, come on. I do not want to mess up my screw heads here, but it's kind of fighting me. I'm pretty sure I got the right size screw head on this. I do not like. Let's see, that's way too loose right there. But I don't like the amount of force I'm having to use to push this down. Let's see. That looks like the right one. So I'm using this screw. It is the one that has a flat top to it. Like if you've built these, you know what I'm talking about. But it has not a flat top, but it has a bit of a wider ring to make good contact with the motherboard. But I swear it's not going in there right. Let me take this off. I hate doing this, but let me take this off. Take this out. And what I'm going to do, since I got some questions about whether or not the screw is going in right. So what I'm going to try and do is screw it in just to the motherboard directly, or just to the case directly. And that will real quick and easy let me know if I got the right screw or not. I don't. Interesting. It has been way too long since I built a motherboard, clearly. Or built a PC from the ground up. I'll be. Huh. All right then. There we go. That's the screw I need. Okay, now it should be lined up again. I feel so old now. They've even changed the screws. That is much better. That is so much better. Okay. Yeah, so this is really important, guys. Whenever you're building your computer or anything that you got to screw down, don't force it. Do not force it. Take the time. If it's not going on there right, then it may just be that you're using the wrong thing. Go ahead and take the time to step back and reevaluate what you're doing. Because now that I got it right, it's just gliding in there. And one thing I also do is, sometimes if the screw is just a little bit smaller than your thread size, it'll go in, but it won't really be secure. If you just pull up on it a little bit on the screw itself, you can wiggle it some, and you'll be able to hear and make sure that the screw has made good contact, and it's not just like, not just you pushing it in, but you actually securing it down to the standoff. It'd be super useful if this screwdriver was magnetized. At least I think it would. I mean, you have to wonder, if you're buying a screwdriver because it's insulated, would you want it to be magnetized? I don't think the two would necessarily be like mutually exclusive. Can't necessarily think of any reason why a magnetized insulated screwdriver would be bad. Like, it's not like it's so magnetized that, it would jump toward a wire or something. That is not how magnetized these things are. Director's saying true, but when it's over, I need a GPU, so I need to know what to go in for. Oh, a GPU in general that is less than $100 or around $100. I'm not sure if you're going to find one. I think you'd be much happier saving up your money until you could afford like a $300 GPU, if at all possible. And at $300, once the shortage is over, you could look at getting a 3060. Once the GPU shortage is over, a 3060 should be around 300, and that is a very decent video card right there. It's decent to the point that I was very, very willing to get a 3060. So to get my video card, I spent about 20 hours standing in line over this past week to be able to finally buy a video card, because it's been in such high demand. So on Monday, I went to Micro Center, and I stood in line from about 6 till 9, 6:30 to 9:30, right in that range. And it was cold, and it was raining, and they got a decent amount of video cards. Uh-oh, I lost a screw. I think I see it. But they just barely didn't have enough. Oh, that is magnetized. Look at that. It's just not strong enough. Okay, well, it fell down the other way. That's fine. So I was 3 people shy of being able to get a video card on Monday. So on Tuesday, I show up. And I show up a little bit earlier. So I'm like, okay, dagnabbit. If the issue is I just didn't show up early enough, I'm going to show up earlier and get me a video card. They had 5 on Tuesday. 5 video cards. Darn it. So Wednesday, I had to work out of town. But on Thursday, I showed up at 1:30 or 2 in the morning in order to get me a video card. And at that point, I was willing. 3060 Ti, 3070, 3080, I would have done any of it. I would have been happy for it. If all they had was a 3090, I may have gotten a 3090 if that was the only option they had at that point. Because at that point, a 3090 is like a $1,400, $1,500 video card. I don't need a 1390, but at that point, I would have been so desperate to have a video card that I would have said my time is worth more than coming back another day and waiting another 10 hours in a line just to get a video card. I said, nope, that's it. So, but fortunately, they had stuff in stock. They had a 3070, and so I went ahead and got a 3070. Okay, so everything's screwed down to the motherboard. Finally. Matt's saying it's a 10-year-old GPU. Yeah. Well, you check what's in stock. Like Best Buy literally has, if you went to Best Buy right now, it has I don't think they have the 1080. I think it's the 1060 I saw that they had. Or maybe even the 1040. So maybe that's better than one you have right now. I take a quick look, and that one is around $100 right now, I want to say. Let me catch up real quick. Gigs and Jordan Neurotic saying, check the trapdoor. That's probably when I was looking for my stuff, wasn't it? I'm glad LDG knows this. This is exactly where he said it would be. Exactly where he said. Thank you, LDG. Use the force, Matt. I'll try, but I don't think it's going to work. I am Bird of Prey levels behind. 10 minutes in the chat. Robert's saying he doesn't even trust Fox News anymore. They're all biased. Every single news media outlet out there is biased. Used to be, they did their best to limit their biases. Now everyone's just like, hey, we're going to go all in. We're going to talk smack about the other guy. We're going to say that they're biased while ignoring our own biases. And it's not good news anymore. I do miss the days when people were more honest with their biases and try to present the facts. Nowadays, everything's just editorial stuff. And nothing wrong with an editorial or an opinion piece. It's just, if I go looking for the news of the day, I don't want the opinion pieces of the day, Like Dragnet. I just want the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. And Drexler is saying that if he had a job, he would have a bigger budget. Yeah, I hear you, man. I really do. And it's rough. I hope that you're able to get a video card here soon. And until the meantime, I hope you can just put back a little bit and a little bit. Because if it takes, 3 months before a video card comes in stock, you put back just a little bit more each time, you might be able to get a better video card. But, obviously I don't know your personal situation. I don't know your personal finances. And I certainly don't mean to be like, oh, well, if you just do this, absolutely you could. Obviously, everything I'm saying, apply to your situation the best you can. And I certainly hope that you're able to do that and get a video card that works well for you. Thomas, make sure you spray the parts with water so they look clean. I think I'm gonna pass on that, Thomas, but thank you. And Drexler saying he got his 660 Ti for $50. That's a nice deal. Oh, at the time you got it. Let's see. Yeah, and Andrea, it was just one lady in a tent where what she's talking about is on Monday, there are 2 tents set up, and one of them had 3 guys and a girl in it. And when I heard someone talking to them in passing, I'm pretty sure only one guy in the tent wanted a GPU, and he got 2 of his friends and his girlfriend, or one of the guy's girlfriends, based on the way she was kind of interacting with them, to line up just so that they could buy 3 additional video cards. And I don't know, sell them, do mining stuff with them. It was just enough to make sure I didn't get one, and it did it irked me. It irked me very, very much. I could consider getting a MacBook Pro. Pass. And yes, there's crickets everywhere. And Andrea's saying, except for me, I'm not biased at all. Everything I say is objectively true. Yeah, clearly, Andrea's definitely never has any biases. Oh, and Andrea's saying that she's actually going to do a live on location breaking news report for Bird of Prey 5 stream today. I look forward, hopefully I can get this done here soon, and I look forward to seeing that. So in fact, what I'm going to do, once I get the CPU in my video card, I'm actually calling it quits at that point because there's a few piddly things that I have to do, and of course the power supply. There's some piddly things I'm going to do as I decide how I put my fans. I'm not going to waste time showing you all how to do that. It's not interesting stuff. So once I get past getting the fan in, getting my video card in, we're going to wrap this up here soon. And yeah, we'll see you over on Birds of Prey 5 stream, hopefully. So let's get back to getting the video card installed. So we have gotten thermal paste on the CPU. And what we're going to do, let's see, it's saying fastening the heatsink to the CPU. Caution, please take off the center fan as well as the protective cover before doing this. So I have taken off the protective cover. And the fan is talking about is this right here. It's held on by these retention clips. So I should be able to very gently, just pull it up. There you go. See, it's loose now. If I got it in frame, you could see it. Yeah, there it's loose. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Where I just take this, get in frame, Matthew. Gosh, I'm the worst. Right there, you just pull it a little bit, nice and gentle, and you're going to hear it pop on one side, and then click off the other side. There you go. Now I can just very gently, without squeezing it together, because that's going to make my life harder, take it out, put it to the side. Now, one of the other things that did make this build more expensive is I got the Noctua stuff. They are expensive fans, but they are delightfully quiet from what I hear. So now that I got the center fan off, I'm going to put the heatsink onto the CPU and screw it to the threads of the mounting bars. Caution, tighten the screws until they stop, but do not use excessive force. All right. So we're going to give this our best go here. Nice. And just a little gentle push there as I get it in spot. And hopefully, yep. So I'm going to give it just a couple turns on each side. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure I'm applying equal pressure to both sides. And didn't quite get it on that standoff. Come on. There we go. I think. Nope. Not getting one side here. Why am I using that one? Silly me. I'm using a flathead. There we go. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten it about 3 times on each side. And the idea here is I'm applying equal pressure to both sides as I screw this on. I'm sorry you couldn't see that more clearly, but when I can show you. Let's see, where is the Noctua case? Okay, I set it off over here to the side. That's why I can't find it. Okay, so what's going on here is that there is a screw thread that I have placed the fan directly onto. And thankfully, because this is raised up a little bit, it's actually just above my RAM. Because that was the other thing I had to check. As I was getting this all set up, I didn't really talk about it, but I did make sure that I had clearance for my RAM and had clearance on the backside for all my I/O ports. And that's something Noctua has done quite well to make sure that you got the space. So once I aligned the screw right on here and had to wiggle a bit to get it on, but now I'm just tightening it onto this screw right here. That's built right into the metal bar, which hopefully you can see that fairly well. Unfortunately, this camera, I guess I could manually focus. Or not. There we go. Okay, so there we go. So now you can see that I'm actually screwing the fan down to this screw right here. So sorry you can't see that down there, but that's just what I'm doing on down there right now. And I'm trying to make sure that I apply equal pressure to both sides, because the last thing I want is just to tighten it all the way on one side. Because if I tighten it down all the way on the other side and then start tightening, I run the risk of one kind of being like this, so that my screw on this side won't make good contact. And I actually could be stripping the screw as I tighten it down, because I'd have to really force it on. So one, that keeps that from occurring. But two, I'd be worried about putting down too much pressure on one side of the CPU and not enough on the other. So by just doing this real gentle, I'm tightening it down at the same rate. I'll have a much better application as I get this on here. I actually start to slow down, so I'm already tightened on that side completely. And there we go. Just had one more quarter turn, half turn on this side. That's all required. So that is perfect. The fact that I had this side tighten all the way and then another half turn on this side, that is exactly what you want as you get your CPU in place. So at this point in time, it's saying I can put my fan back on here. And the thing about the Noctua is that this is a 2-fan solution where I have air pooling through this first heatsink and then pulling through the second, or I could do pushing. The only difference is just talking about where the fan is. So either I can put it in the middle and suck the air through this side from this fan, which would then also push air onto this side, and I'd have a second fan pulling it. Or I can just do it the opposite way. For me, right now, I'm thinking about pulling it from the back and pushing it toward the front. And I explained all that at the beginning. I'm going to do testing with it and see which way I like best and which one kind of gives me the lowest numbers. But you know what? I'm not going to worry about clipping the fan back on right now. As you saw, it's just really easy. You get it on there and then you're going to push it down. But I don't want to worry about that right now. I want to move on to the next part of this. Bird of Prey 5 saying, good luck, life with Matthew Kapla. Kapla, Bird of Prey 5. Today is a good day to watch a movie. Melphis Sky saying, I hate that scalpers are making it harder to get stuff like graphic cards at reasonable prices. I do too. I try to have a Christ-like response. I try to not let it get to me because in the grand scheme of things, me getting a video card, it doesn't matter. There's people starving in the world. There's people without water in the world, and I'm fussing about not getting a video card. So I do try to keep it in perspective, but man, it irks me that there are people out there who know the shortage going on, and they want to take advantage of others. They want to, try and make a quick buck when everyone else is just trying to get a card so they can play a video game, so they can do their work like me. I'm just trying to get a video card so I can do my job. Now, yes, I got a video card that might be a little overpowerful. Maybe I don't need all this, but at the end of the day, this is still going to help me out with doing my work. It's not just for streaming and gaming. So as I get this in, let me explain why I specifically wanted a GeForce. The Radeon 6800 XT is an incredibly good video card. It is, on paper, better than the GeForce I got. It has more memory. It has higher clock speeds. It has more CUDA cores, whatever the heck that means. But it's got it. And I know it's somehow important to it. But there are two things it doesn't got that really it makes it less than ideal for me personally. And that first one is the NVIDIA RTX, starting with the 1060 and moving all the way up through the current generation. It has a separate chip on here just for encoding stuff. Now, and it's called the NVEC, the NVEC chip. Now, sorry, I'll call you back. I'm almost done. Now, AMD does have its own encoder chip. I forget the name of it, however. But because it uses a different one, this is the second thing, and the second reason that I went with the GeForce one. And that is GeForce, the encoder on the GeForce chip, is currently the only one that works with OBS. So if you want to do any streaming stuff, unfortunately, you need to use a GeForce, because otherwise, OBS, you'll have to use your CPU to encode your stream. But by using a GeForce, my goodness, this thing is huge. By using a GeForce, I'm able to offload all of that onto my my video card right here, and that is a massive improvements gain. And it does it all without impacting your gaming experience. So let's say I'm playing a video game. I gotta take these ports off so I can actually plug it in and take the stuff off the front. So you're playing a video game. and it's using like 50, 70% of your GPU. And you decide you want to stream this game. Well, if I was using a AMD video card, I would have to use my CPU power to encode that. With this GeForce, however, I'm able to have this one card right here, this massive behemoth of a card, do the encoding for me. And it doesn't increase my usage. So if I'm using 50 to 70% to play the game, and I start streaming, I'm still only using 50 to 70% of the GPU's power. Everything else is done on that separate chip, and that is so incredible. So let's see, I need a screwdriver. Let's see what else comes in here as I'm getting this. So first of all, there's a ruler. This says Republic of Gamers, designed by Asus Tech Computers Incorporated. And it has a PWM, an AC, and a ground symbol, and a NPN transistor, and a capacitor. I have no idea. I have no idea why it's doing these different electrical symbols on here. But it's also a 4.5 inch ruler. Is this useful? Is this useful? Is it me? I don't see the point of that. I mean, I guess it's cute. A couple little Velcro straps that will probably come in handy. And let me get my screwdriver, because what I need to do is I need to take my PCIe slot covers off, which I believe I'll take the first 3 off. I'm not sure which 3 it's actually going to fall into, but I'll take all 3 of these off. Now, one thing I really, really wanted for my case, and I wasn't able to get, is Lian Li specifically designed a riser card, or not a riser card. They designed a standoff so that GPUs are so heavy on the back end they really wobble. So Lian Li said, well, how about we include this little bracket? They'll brace up the back of it so that as you sit it upright, you set it upright, it rests on the back end. Unfortunately, I can't find any store that has it in stock. I found one on eBay for $50. It's an $8 adapter. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not paying for that. All right. Moment of truth here. So first thing I need to do, these PCIe 16X slots, just like your RAM, they have a little locking lever at the back. So I'm going to make sure that is down. And then I am going to real carefully get this fitted in there. I can. Tell you what, how about I take off the protective cover first? You think that will help? You think that'll help? I think that might help. Now let's try and get this in here. Ooh. There we go. Nice. Very nice. My goodness. Whoo, look at that thing. That is massive in there. That takes up most of my computer case right there. My goodness. Okay, we're gonna screw these thumb screws back on. Which, why would I screw them? I mean, they're thumb screws. They're designed to not need to be screwed on. But when you got this much weight on something, I don't know. I think I'll go ahead and screw it down just a little bit. Yeah, I think so. Geek's saying fans first, fans flips. You need to clip the fans first. Darn it, LDG. I hate it when you're right. LDG's right. I should have done the fans first. I really wanted to get this in here. Just have it out of the way, you know? I don't think that part's supposed to come up. Okay, so I might have to take that off in a second. Bradley's saying, don't forget about the screws I dropped in the case. Yes, I won't forget about those. Begging me to stop. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I apologize. You know, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Because I'm gonna, once I get this next part in, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the stream, because at that point it's just me fiddling with wire location and stuff like that. Oh, you know what? There is one more thing I do need to do. Oh, look, here's one more thing from ASUS. What do we got in here? Just a manual speed setup. Yeah, that's neat. That's nice. And a Republic of Gamers trading card. Like, seriously? Seriously? I don't need this stuff. Next time, say cut $10 off the price and keep this to yourself, ASUS. So I do need to put in my power supply at some point. I expect that to be a painful experience, so I'm not going to do that on stream. But let me tell you about the one I got as I do this. So I went ahead and I got the Ignition 1200 watt power supply, which you don't need a 1200 watt power supply. The reason I did this, I don't need a 1200 watts of power supply. If I had like 2 or 3 video cards in here, I might need a 1200 watt power supply. The reason I got this one is if I have more wattage than I actually need, it's going to stay cooler. The way they design these power supplies is they try to keep it at a certain temperature. And once it hits that certain temperature, you need to start up the fans in the power supply. So if you overspec your needs just a little bit, you actually make it so that you don't have to run it nearly as much. You don't have to run the fans nearly as much. So I did overspec this, but by doing so, it will mean that the power supply fans run less frequently. And that's worth it to me. I don't want those fans running. As for why I got this specific brand, it's what they had in stock. It's what they had in stock. That is 100% the only reason why I got this guy right here. Because otherwise, I mean, I've never used Ignition, the main gear Ignition line. Had decent enough reviews online, so that's the one I got. I'll worry about getting that in later. The last thing I'm going to drop in here before we go ahead and wrap up this stream is, let me talk about this video capture device I got. This is the last real big saving thing. So if we've been keeping track, you could have easily saved probably about $1,000 on this build. I think $1,000 isn't too much of an overstatement. That if you still wanted a very nice computer, you probably could have found about $1,000 worth of stuff to save. And the last one is right here. This was a $200 capture card. And I got this because the Elgato Camlink 4K that I'm using right now, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It does a decent enough job when it works. Almost every single stream, I have to fight with that Camlink to actually turn on. For whatever reason, it sits there and it says it's connecting, or it shows on the light, like it has a little light on there that says whenever it's getting a video input. And that light is on, and I plug it into my computer, and OBS can't find it for whatever reason. And it happens 9 times out of 10. So I have to unplug and replug, and unplug and replug. Never works. And I'm just so fed up with it. I don't want it around anymore. So one of the things I did is I looked for a PCIe solution instead. Something where I can plug it in and have nice video and never have to worry about USB stacks not working. And so that led me to the AverMedia 4K. Let's see, it's the GC573 Live Gamer 4K from AverMedia, which again, not sponsored by anyone on this stream. This is just what I picked out on my own. It is a PCIe Gen 2 4X. So if you follow the logic there, a Gen 3 1X is all you need to get full speed from this. So I can put this in a Gen 4 1X and have double the amount of bandwidth that I need to run this. Which is why, when I put in my case right here, I was thinking I might put it in the one right next to my video card. But I think if I did that, which you can see how little space there is, I think that's going to cause needless heat for both these devices. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to put it at the 16X at the very far end of my case. That'll get the most distance for my video card so that I'm not causing anything to overheat. And you can see for that, super easy. Just have to take off this thumb screw again. And this one I will only thumb screw down as I put it on. And we'll be good to go. And someone's asking, don't forget about the screws. Thank you for that reminder. I will remember about the screws on the other side. Let's see. Did that pop in? There we go. And you can see, so this is a 2X. This is a 2X PCIe device. And I put it in a 16, and it doesn't care. It will work just fine. You can put any PCIe in any other PCIe device, regardless of gen or number of lanes that it says it needs. That's the glorious thing about PCIe. If you put it in a slot that has more bandwidth than it needs, it's just not going to use it. If you put it in a slot that has less bandwidth than it needs, then you're going to be limited, but it will still work. That is the amazing thing about PCIe. Now, for the rest of this build, I will have to manage to get my my power supply in the back here. Let me kind of adjust this a little bit. Oh, you're going on a trip. There are 3.5 inch bays, so if I wanted some regular hard drives in there, I can put them there. But there's also on the back side a spot to put some 2.5 inch drives, and that's what I'm going to use instead. So after that, it's just a matter of routing my cables, which I can hopefully keep clean and neat in here. It's going to be a little difficult, but all that is boring stuff. So guys, we are going to wrap it up unless anyone has any other questions for the parts I got, why I got them, or anything else that you want to ask before I wrap this up. And as LDG said, I should have put the fans on the heatsink first. I absolutely should have. Thank you for that catch, Geeks. Enjoy Nerdrotica. He's saying nice buy, and that he hates USB video captures. I do too. And one of the nice things about the Live Gamer, there are two versions of it, the GC570 and the GC573. If you get one like this, you want the 73. The 570 had compatibility and overheating issues, and they have since fixed that, which is why I got the 73. But it also has 4K pass-through. So this lets me capture at 4K, 60p, and do pass-through as well. At least that's what I'm pretty sure. It captures video at 4K 60. So it doesn't just a lot of video cards out there, video capture cards. They will capture at 1080p, but pass through at 4K. So as you're getting them, make sure you see what it captures at. So this one, it does capture at 4K, and I'm pretty sure it can be natively seen by OBS. So I don't have to have a second program up just to do my video captures. So make sure you research anything before you buy it. And you'll find out that everything is inadequate. It's horrible, but it's true. You just have to learn to love it. The future of this case, I forgot to see if there are 5.25 inch drive bays, you may recall. So I got a CD burner, a duplicator, an external CD duplicator, just the shell. And what it basically is a tiny little computer case, just big enough to fit 3 5.25 inch drives in. So I'm going to use that, put my CD burner in there, put a 5.25 inch floppy in there, and a 3.5 inch floppy in there. And I have a special device that lets me take those old ones and convert it to a USB format so that my old equipment, because I program really old stuff sometimes, and sometimes the only way to get the programming software is on 5.25 inch floppy disks and pray that everything still works. And I got a couple personal games that I want to back up. So I'm going to use this external device. Hopefully I can I'm waiting for parts to come in so that the guy can actually make and sell one to me. But once he gets that, I'll show you that setup. And it's going to sit just to the side of my case and hopefully look nice. I'm not going to worry about LGG. I'm not going to worry about RGB stuff in the case. I'm going to turn all that off. I am going to worry a little bit about power routing. In fact, this is an important thing. So on motherboards, and I'm going to try and let you see down in there. Maybe if I shine some light on there, you may see, if I get this just right, I hope you can see that, there are 2 8-pin power slots there. And on the RTX, there are 2 more of these 2, 4, 6, 8 power pin adapters. You need to be careful with those. So on the motherboard, they are jumped parallel to one another. That means if you plug it in on one, if you plug an 8-pin device on one of those, you don't necessarily gain any benefit from plugging in the second one. Unless you have so much onboard power being drawn that you actually need both of them. Most of the time you don't. But whenever you do, this is really important. Whenever you do, don't get a jumper cable. Right now, the way a lot of these PSU manufacturers or the power supply manufacturers are doing things, they will have an 8-pin for your GPU with a little jumper cable to plug into the other one. Don't do that. The reason why you need 2 dedicated lines is that the size of the wires they're using are not designed to provide enough wattage to both of them at once. They're not. If you do both of them, you can actually fry out your power supply. So you either need to go buy a second cable, or hopefully the power supply you bought actually comes with enough cables so that you can plug in both of them in one go. So the power supply I bought, it has 6 of these 8-pin connectors, so I can provide a dedicated cable for each one. And I highly recommend that you do that as well instead of jumpering them over. And Geeks Enjoy Neurotica is saying, have fun with it. So what I really want to do, I wanted to buy those nice sleeve cables, the ones that are just extensions, but they're like $30 a pop. And I can't justify $30 a pop for something that I'm not building to bling out. I don't need that. So there are some cable routing options in this case. That's one of the reasons I got it. Everything will be hidden on the back side. They have some nice tray supports. If you want to see more about it, you can look up LAN Cool 2 Mesh. And lots of people have talked about what a great case this is. I'm also going to replace the 3 fans in the front. I'm going to put on 3 120 millimeter fans on the front, 1 on the back, and then 2 140s on the top. And that should provide more than enough cooling. And my main goal here is quiet. So I'm hoping that all these fans, I can put them at very low speeds, have good airflow, and have it be whisper quiet. That is what I am hoping for. Did I break it yet? I have not, but thank you for inquiring. I am actually going to go ahead and wrap it up here unless, one last chance, does anyone have any sort of questions before I close the stream out? I'll give you just a few seconds to think about it here. I think I've shown you everything I got. Everything is put in here. Oh, well, I guess I didn't show you. I got two of the 870 QVO Samsung drives. So I got a terabyte and a 2 terabyte. And the goal right now is to do the storage pool with the NVMe card, my NVMe drive as the cache with the 2 terabyte. I'll put all my stuff on that storage pool together, and then my hard drive will actually my operating system will boot off the 1 terabyte drive. So I'll have this split where most of it's on Windows and a little bit on Linux, because every once in a while I find it's actually extremely helpful to have a Linux partition and not just a virtual machine. Like I can boot into it. Linux is very, very useful for me. Memphis Sky wants to know how many Kurogen Orphan Souls will be needed to power my new Kurogen PLC. Good news, we use natural gas, not Orphan Souls. I think you're thinking of another country, maybe something. I think Victor Von Doom might have something like that, and he's pretty close friends with Turkestan, if I recall. They're kind of very close to one another. Latvia and Turkestan, I think they're geographically close, very close allies. Kurogen, however, nuclear power, and natural gas tends to be the way we go, I think. I'll have to ask Bird of Prey 5 about our power infrastructure later on. So I do think that's all the questions. I hope that you have found this build helpful, or at least entertaining. Until next time, everyone, take care. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will, and be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of all the updates I do on this channel. If you want to support the work I'm doing here, then I hope you'll consider becoming one of my Patreons, where you'll get early access to all kinds of videos. And until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.